Here you go, guys. Team Agis or Team Sidecar, which wins out the debate today for the concealability, the accessibility, and comfortability of this battle of the holsters. So primarily when I think about a holster, I think about three different things. Does it conceal well? Does it allow me to access my pistol well? And is it comfortable? Now, oftentimes the pistols that are, or the holsters that allow the pistol to be more accessible are not necessarily concealable, right? They don't sit too high, or they sit high in the waistband, and the lower they sit, they tend to be less accessible, but they tend to be more concealable. So what we're looking at is we're going to compare the Trexarms Sidecar and the Tier 1 Agis holster, and we're going to ask ourselves the question, which gun allows us to have more accessibility while also having more concealability? So one of the things that you're going to notice about the Agis as opposed to the Sidecar is that you're going to notice that the Agis actually has a flex point. It's a piece of leather, modular in its design, to where you can take this and move it to 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock if that's your thing, or just rock it with just an appendix and not the magazine attachment. That's what a lot of people say, right? And that's what I've heard from Tier 1 Concealed. But obviously, I don't really care about those things because I want an extra magazine. I want a full-size holster, and more importantly, I want 2 clips upon my holster. For me, the flex point is going to be the thing that's we're going to talk a little bit about when it comes to this debate. But ultimately, we're going to show you how the holsters look all around. So here's the Agis. If you look towards the back of it, very nicely folded and molded and formed. Works well. There's another Agis for the CZP. You take this and you compare it to like the Sidecar, right? Same kind of blood red going on. See, the Agis looks a little bit more formed, looks a little bit sharper than what's going on here in the back. So anybody who knows me knows that I have for the past 2 years been a Sidecar fanboy, absolute die-hard fanboy of Trexarms Sidecar. It was what I thought was the perfect balance in blendability of concealment and accessibility. I'm going to show you a little bit about what it looks like right now. And I think why I fell in love with this holster was because to date, to what I understand, this gun was really unlike, this holster was really like anything else on the market, right? It had the ability to have an extra magazine. It did a really good job of forcing the gun closer into your body, allowing it to be more concealable for t-shirts, things like that. And of course, it's really what helped me be the fast kind of shooter that I am today. So I have an emotional bias when it comes to these products, and I absolutely love Trexarms. I love Lucas Botkin and his family. I think that they make amazing, awesome products, and I've been happy to have worked with them for so long. Well, last year I was sent a Agis by Tier 1 Concealed. And I got the holster and I was immediately skeptical and emotionally blinded. But when I put it on, I was absolutely objective. And what I mean with that is when I had the holster on, the first version of the holster, I really didn't like it. It wasn't fun. It didn't conceal as well as the Sidecar. It was big, blocky, and if you can, I don't know if you can see what's going on here. Big, blocky, and bulky. It just did not conceal well like the Sidecar did. The Sidecar had been evolved, right? It was on Gen 5. It was already knew what it was bad at and got better at it along the generations, so to speak. And the Agis, though, just printed like crazy. It was the first gen, and I was immediately turned off to the Agis. So when people asked me which one do I prefer, it was obvious that I said I prefer a Sidecar over a Tier 1. But I started noticing people upon the internet who were sidecar fans who are now switching to the Agis holster. And I was asking the question why, and they were saying things like it's more concealable, it's more comfortable, it's just a better fit for me, things like that. And I started asking myself the question, how much has the Agis then evolved? And then what I found was shocking. I found that the Agis got smaller. I found that the clips were put further apart. I found that the Raptor Claw hook was more aggressive. And then when I put it on, I was blown away. I put it on, and I was shocked at how easily it was way more concealable and still just as accessible as the Sidecar. Now let's talk about what makes a holster concealable, right? Primarily what makes a holster concealable are three factors. You've got your body type, you've got the clothing that you choose to wear, and your actual holster choice, right? People think it's about belt, it's really not. If you're wearing a button-up shirt, and I'll show you this here in a little bit, but if you're wearing a button-up shirt, you can really get away with any kind of concealment. You could hide a 50 cal in your pants, right? It doesn't matter how big of a gun you want to carry, you can conceal it well. The issue is that people don't walk around in button-ups a lot of times, or maybe that is their everyday carry, so on and so forth, or everyday dress, and that's fine. But really people like wearing t-shirts, and they like carrying full-size guns for t-shirts. And so what helps the Agis become more concealable than the Sidecar is that the Sidecar is a single piece of kydex. It can't bend, it can't flex, it's not going anywhere. The Raptor Claw isn't as aggressive, so when it presses up against your pants, it's not doing a whole lot. But this is why the Agis does so well. Because what makes it concealable is that when it presses up against the pants, it's pressing the entire gun off of that flex point. It's pressing the entire gun off of the flex point deeper into your body. With the Sidecar, it's one rigid piece of kydex, so that when one side moves, everything else flares out, unless it fits you perfectly. So I will say that the debate between the Trexarms Sidecar and the Agis is really subjective based off of body style, clothing type, and maybe even the gun that you're carrying. Let me talk about, on a scale of 1 to 10 right now, where my opinion lies with the comfortability, the accessibility, and the concealability of each of these. Right now, I would say that the Sidecar, on a scale from 1 to 10 as far as comfortability, depending on your body type, obviously, but for me, I'm 6 foot, I'm 165 pounds, I'm very thinly shaped, obviously. But for me, I would say the comfortability is about a 6 out of 10. It's a rigid piece of kydex. It's not a leather, right? It's not like a leather hybrid where you have leather in the back and kydex in the front or anything like that. It is just straight kydex. So for the person who's never appendix carried before, it can seem like, oh, this is not very comfortable, I don't like this, so on and so forth. For the accessibility of the firearm, what's great about the accessibility of all of these appendix holsters is that the clips can ride up or they can ride down. Now what that means is that you can actually have the gun, depending on where you want it to sit, you can have the gun sit higher, you can have the gun sit higher or lower into the pant line. Now obviously the higher that the gun sits, right, the more accessible it is. The lower that it sits, the more concealable it is, but the less accessible it is because you don't have as much forgiveness for this purchase area when you go in to make this purchase. So I would say the accessibility on all of these are, you know, 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10. It's not like an outside the waistband holster. Obviously, it still has to be concealed by a piece of clothing, but they make the options that they have on these holsters make them extremely accessible. The concealability factor is kind of what's doing it right now. The Sidecar, I would kind of give it a 6 out of 10 depending on your body type. Now, the body type is a big thing because if you have, I don't have a very large chest. I kind of want you guys to see what's going on here. I know it's kind of showing you lots, but I want to show you kind of what's going on here. I don't have, this is me relaxed. I am not sticking out my stomach. I'm not sucking it in. This is just how I am relaxed. And what you'll notice is that my chest doesn't protrude past my stomach, right? So what that does is that clothing does not do a good job of hanging off my massive pectorals, right? And having this draping effect and allowing whatever holster that I choose to be concealable. So for thinner people, the Sidecar is going to print more. Why is it going to print more? Because we don't have chests. And if we didn't poop that day, or if we ate too much, we're going to stick out like that, and we're going to be walking around, and this is just how it's going to look, right? And this is, if you look from the side here, this is me postured up, relaxed. I'm not sticking out my stomach. I'm not doing anything like that. And this is just what we get. And I don't even have an extra magazine. You don't get an extra magazine here. Right? This is just me, just chilled, relaxed, just going about my day, blah, blah, blah. And as you see it, we have more of what's going on here. But if I had a bigger chest, right? I don't know how Madonna I'm going to get, but if I had a bigger chest, this is essentially what's happening. You can't see anything of what's going on. So it definitely depends upon your body type when it comes to concealability. Well, when I switch over to the Agis for the Glock 19, one of the things that you're going to notice is that you can get more of a bigger belt buckle in between these two things. But belt buckle and where your belt buckle is placed is also a thing for concealability. Again, just relaxed, just chilling, and you'll see that the gun pulls in more. The gun pulls in more because you have this flex point and this raptor claw that when you tighten your belt, it pulls everything in nice and tight without making this flex point move. Here's a full-size 2011 in an Agis holster. And I guarantee you I'm going to conceal this better than I would a Glock 19 in a Sidecar. Again, you look at me, just chilled, relaxed. It's pretty cool, right? Here we are. Now, obviously, it all depends on, if I sit down, if I, move out throughout the day, if wind is going against my body, all of those things are obviously factors. But if you're using just a t-shirt, I find that the Agis is going to conceal naturally better than a Sidecar will. So the pros and the cons of the Sidecar and the Agis. Primarily, the con of the Sidecar is that it cannot flex and it does not allow for the concealability that the Agis does. The con of the Agis is that it can flex, and when I'm in combatives with people, the holster will separate from the actual buttons, and it will be kind of not floppy, but not as secure in my pants. The good thing about the Sidecar is that it's all one rigid piece of Kydex, so it's not going to break. It's going to be, it's going to be very difficult to break the holster. But when you're in combatives, the holster is going to be intact, and it's going to allow you to access that pistol anywhere you want to because it's not going to move around like the Tier 1 does. So in conclusion, I'm going to have to start recommending the Tier 1 concealed Agis holster over the Sidecar. Now, the Sidecar is what drove the appendix carry movement. We should all be thankful for Lucas and the people at Trexarms for making such a wonderful, awesome holster. And I will still use this and I will still wear it. But the Agis has evolved. It has taken the platform and it has made it better. And that's honestly just my opinion. Now, what you got to understand is that I'm not paid by either company, right? I've been given Kydex by either company, but I am not paid by either company to have a particular opinion. I'm not paid or endorsed to make this video. The reason why I'm making this video is so that people would know where I stand upon the issue and why I have the particular feelings that I have. I know that when Jared first sent me this holster, people got really hurt upon the internet because I gave him my honest opinion about where the holster was. It was a piece of trash. But it has evolved, it has gotten better, and it has surpassed the Sidecar. I'm just interested to see what Lucas at Trexarms starts to do to make the Sidecar start to compete with the Agis.